Good morning, Year 8. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Please could you write the date and the title, Workers and Factory Owners During the Industrial Revolution. For you to do now, I would like you to write down everything you can remember about the Industrial Revolution. Also, what do you think the relationship was like between workers and manufacturers? Pause the video for 5 minutes to do that now. For this lesson, you'll need a pen, pencil and highlighter, your exercise book, and the trade union PDF extract. Do now review. You may have written that the Industrial Revolution was a time in British history where the country changed hugely from a mostly rural society to an industrial one, which saw rises in factories and manufacturing. You may have written that the relationship between manufacturers and workers wasn't good, and you'd be right. Today, we're going to look at the interaction between workers and manufacturers through the characters of Josiah Bounderby and Stephen Blackpool. But first, let's recap some key points about the Industrial Revolution. Pause each slide and write down the key facts. Between 1750 and 1900, the population of Britain grew by 4 times, from 10 million people to 40 million people. Supply was found to match demand. This increase in population led to many businessmen and innovators finding ingenious solutions whilst making a lot of money. There was also improved agriculture. During this period, farmers became more efficient in order to feed the growing population. Using advances such as improved crop rotation, selective breeding of animals, and new machinery, farmers made the land that had been farmed in a similar way for centuries more efficient. The birth of factories. It was not only farmers who were developing new machines and ideas. Factories began to be built in cities to produce goods at a faster rate than before. People moved from the countryside to cities to work in them. Woolen cloth and cotton goods had been produced in small amounts in people's homes for centuries. A factory could produce huge amounts of textiles very quickly, useful for clothing the increasing population and as trade goods. Power. The first factories were powered by water and used wooden machines. New types of power would lead to bigger, more efficient factories. Coal was mined in large amounts and used to create wrought iron that was tough enough to create large, complex machines. Steam power was a technology that led to innovations. Transport. With growth in agriculture and industry, things needed to be moved around the country in large amounts. Canals, such as the Bridgewater Canal, were dug to link growing cities together, in this case, Manchester and Liverpool, and transport goods between them. Roads were improved to make travel by cart easier and faster. Railways were laid to accommodate a new, wondrous invention, the steam train. Empire. It was not just at home that Britain grew. The British Empire expanded from a few colonies in 1750 to cover a fifth of the world's land by 1900. Colonies in places such as India, Australia, Canada, and South Africa gave British factories access to exotic resources such as cotton, silk, fur, and tea. By 1900, the empire had a population of around 400 million people, each of these a potential customer for British goods, which pushed production ever onwards. All these factors led to business opportunities. Meet Mr. Bounderby. A so-called self-made man, Bounderby is best friends with Mr. Gradgrind, who we've encountered before. He loves money and is very greedy and arrogant. He is a manufacturer and employs several people in Coketown. He likes to tell people of his escape from poverty, having been abandoned as a child. By the end of Hard Times, Dickens reveals that is a lie, and he actually had a good education and a loving home. Workers, Stephen Blackpool. One of the hands in Bounderby's factory, Stephen, lives a life of drudgery and poverty. In spite of the hardships of his daily toil, Stephen strives to maintain his honesty, integrity, faith, and compassion. Stephen is an important character, not only because his poverty and virtue contrast with Bounderby's wealth and self-interest, but also because he finds himself in the midst of a labour dispute that illustrates the strained relations between the rich and the poor. So as you can imagine, working conditions for men like Stephen weren't very good. Trade unions began to form. These are organisations that represent the collective interests of employees and sought to improve working conditions. They put pressure on factory owners to make changes, sometimes resulting in strikes. I'd like you to read the extract Trade Unions. In this extract, a character called Slackbridge tries to persuade Stephen and other hands to join the union. There's some tricky vocabulary, so on the next slide are some definitions to help you. So I'd like you to pause the video here while you read the extract, and you can refer to the definitions on this slide if you would like. So pause for 10 minutes to do this now. Okay, so for your next task, I would like you to use 2 different coloured highlighters. In one colour, highlight any words used to describe the workers, and then in another colour, I'd like you to highlight the words used to describe the factory owners. And also, I'd like you to consider what you notice. Additionally, if you were Stephen, would you sign up? Use evidence to support your ideas, and also please include individual word analysis. So pause the video for 15 minutes to do these 3 things. Okay, so let's review your answers. So we're going to go through the extract on the slides, and I'd like you to consider which parts are highlighted in yellow, representing the manufacturers, and which parts are highlighted in yellow, representing the workers, and which parts are highlighted in green, which represent the factory owners / manufacturers. So compare what's highlighted on the slides to what you've got highlighted in your books. Okay, for question 2, you may have written, the workers are mentioned more than the owners. The language used to describe the workers is more positive, and the language used to describe the owners and any actions associated with them is quite violent. So you may have commented on, yes, he should join. Words like united, friends, fellow, brothers, and one power suggest that they're all coming together because they have shared interests. Crumble into dust the oppressors suggests that they know they are more powerful than the factory owners together. Words like oppressor make it seem there's a battle that needs to be won. Tyrants and traitors makes it seem like the factory owners and people who work for them willingly are villains, and therefore Stephen might feel like he has to be on the side of the gallant workers. For no, he shouldn't join. Working man, since such I must acknowledge him to be, who, at such a time, deserts his post and sells his flag, who at such a time turns a traitor and a craven and a recreant, who at such a time is not ashamed to make you the dastardly and humiliating avowal that he will hold himself aloof. This suggests that the union is just another organised system where there'll be a leader in power. Slackbridge is applying pressure. He says if you don't join the union, then you're a traitor and a craven and a recreant. So in a way, this is a parallel with the relationship between the factory owner and the workers. It's just someone who's got a bit of power telling them what to do. So you could understand why he might want to refuse to hold on to, in an attempt to hold on to a bit more of his individuality. So what happens? Stephen refuses to join because he's worried it will increase tensions between workers and manufacturers and ultimately make things worse. The workers reject him, but he continues to work at Bounderby's factory. However, he is approached by Mr. Bounderby, who asks him to act as a spy and feed back anything the workers are planning. Stephen refuses, and as a result is fired from the factory. Understanding character. What I'd like you to do is write a monologue from either Stephen's or Bounderby's perspective, describing how they feel about the other character. Consider the situations they're in and what they might do. Right, thank you very much for your hard work today. I hope you found it enjoyable and interesting, and thank you, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next lesson. So thank you and goodbye.